Hello, hello, hello. You are listening to Devoted to the Dirty Details, where we bring to you some of the best local wedding professionals Columbus has to offer. My name is Jamie Rapavy, and I've been in the industry for over 25 years. I thrive on bringing amazing resources to you, educating, saving you money, but most importantly, making sure that you have a great time while planning one of the most amazing days you will have as a couple. Now let's get down to those dirty details of planning.
I'm engaged. Now what? Okay, so today we are here with one of my favorite people in Columbus, Michelle Richey. She runs the wedding planning division for Devoted to Details and Devoted Columbus, or for our wedding day assistants, basically. And I'm just so excited to be talking with her and learning a bit about some things from her today. So welcome, Michelle.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yay. Okay, so today we have this burning question from our engaged couples that have been asked for on our social media. And the question is, what are the most popular things that couples forget those 30 days prior to their wedding date? Because I know there's a lot, but let's get into maybe some of the top ones.
Yeah, there's so many things. And I think, what people forget is that so much happens the last 30 days. Like you're top heavy, you're heavy up front and with the planning and booking all your vendors. And then there's that, nothing happens for a while. Then all of a sudden 30 days, you're scrambling to get everything done and people situated. So I would say my number one thing that couples forget is to update their timeline and communicate it with all of their vendors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that is a really important step that I don't know if our couples realize that it's important to do. Making sure that all of your vendors are on the same page prior to your wedding day is absolutely key to making sure that everything goes smoothly.
Absolutely. Well, and even I guess having a timeline. I don't even know if they know they should have one, right? I mean, it might be the venue's responsibility, or if you do have a planner, they might do it. But if you don't have anybody doing this would be a phenomenal thing to put together because it helps you not forget things, right?
Yes. And a master timeline at that. So another thing that couples don't realize is that every vendor that's with you at your reception, at least, has their own timeline. So your photographer is going to have their own timeline that they came up with. They've talked to you about it. You probably have seen it. Your DJ is going to have another one, and your caterer or your venue is going to have a third one. So you have to, there has to be some master timeline that you keep and you put all the information in, because I want to say like 8 out of 10 times, nothing matches. If you're relying on your vendors to do it on their own, if no one's bringing it together.
Yeah,
for sure.
So what would be then some of those, should they be calling all of their vendors or emailing, or what do you think is best, and what questions maybe should they be asking?
Yeah, so I would say if you are in regular contact with your vendors up to that point, it may be okay to just email out that timeline. But there are things too toward the end that you need to confirm with some of these vendors. So some things that you may want to confirm is what time are they arriving? What time are they, did the services end? What are they bringing with them? So with your DJ, maybe you hired them for uplighting as well. Are they going to are they going to play music for your rehearsal, or not your rehearsal, your ceremony? Did you realize that you need like mics for your officiant or for the speakers? So there's things that you do need to confirm back with them, or that they need to confirm back with you. So if I had to choose email over phone call, or if I had to choose one or the other, I would say phone call, just because so many things come up and it's easier to do that over the phone than it is via email.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And that you should be doing that. I would recommend doing that 2 or 3 weeks before, so that once you're done with that, it's all good. You just have to manage the people in your lives at that point.
Yeah. And maybe have somebody managing that timeline. Right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
it's really putting people in charge of all of these things on the day of. If you don't have somebody doing them, don't leave them for yourself.
No, you don't have time. You don't have time. And I don't think a lot of couples out there think that they can plan everything and then they just let it go the day of. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it can work, and it's, kind of, you get lucky there. Or you have amazing vendors who in the background behind your back, without you knowing, pull it together. And probably, 9 times out of 10, that's probably what's happening. But yeah, you're not going to have time. Even your mom or your step parents or your siblings may not even have time that day. So assigning someone to be the day of contact, or even kind of coordinator, if you will, to help manage all of that, is a great way to go. Now, I'm always going to suggest to hire a wedding planner or a day of coordinator, always, because I will tell you, it's a huge burden lifted off of you and your family. So not just you, but and your family. But if you can't, then assigning someone to do that for you.
And I think of, wedding day assistants or wedding planners as insurance. You're spending thousands and thousands of dollars on your wedding. It's just a little bit of added insurance to make you feel good and allow you to relax, and it's not that expensive. So I don't know if that perception out there is it's so costly, but in the scheme of things, it really isn't.
It really isn't. And someone to be that project manager to pull all those details together for you and help you remember these things 30 days prior is really, it really lifts that burden off of you. And I don't know if a lot of people realize that.
Yeah.
Towards the end, but this is the craziest part of this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It brings me up. We'll definitely have to do another podcast on this, but the difference between a lot of venue coordinators then will say, oh, we can manage that, but they really don't manage your timeline. Mm-hmm. They manage their timeline. And so that's just something to be aware of, but whole nother podcast.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So some other things then would be what that they might forget that 30 days out.
Yeah, like during that last 30 days, like final payments, final counts are due. So the other thing that I see a lot is, your final guest count isn't sent to catering in time, or you are, you send the final guest count and you forget yourself. So we have to remember that on your RSVP tracker, that you make sure that you include yourselves in that food count and whatnot. So it's really important to make sure that you have tracked that along the way. So that's the other thing, is you have to track those RSVPs. And you have to track, if you have a plated meal, you have to track those meal options, track if you have a bar, making sure you know who's over 21 and who's not. So all of these things play into your final price and your final things due to your catering and venue. So I think that's forgotten about. You're like, oh, I sent RSVPs, like they'll be tracked via the knot. And you're like, well, how are you going to get those down? How are you going to send those to your caterer? Yeah. So yeah.
And that all relates to a diagram, which then if you have meal choices, you have to have assigned tables. Mm-hmm. And you know how many weddings I've been to where there's not the right amount of chairs at the table. Mm-hmm. And then the caterer venue's scrambling to fix it and it looks all awkward. So just something as simple as that is making sure you have somebody making sure the right amount of chairs are at the table for setup. Who's going to do that? Write that down.
Yeah. And if you have a plated meal and you have place cards, so these are the cards that are sat at each seat, who's going to set those out for you? Who's who's going to print them for you? I mean, those are things that you have to figure out during those last 30 days too, because your RSVPs aren't going to be back until around that time.
Right.
So those are things you have to get done.
Right.
As well. And then what food indicators? So this is a big one too that I just thought of is for plated meals, you have to determine how you're going to indicate which meal your guest chose. And oftentimes it's a last minute decision with, oh, I don't know, like we can just put stars or stickers or something. So you have to decide on what those are and then communicate that. Also, I would recommend not doing anything that could fall off because it's a nightmare.
So even like little diamond gems or pearls that I've seen, and then they fall off and they're like, oh, I have no idea. And it has to be a big enough indicator that the servers can see it, and it's not, you know, you have to think of all these things. Like if it's a really dark room and you had dark red and dark blue, it might look the same color. Yeah. So just
I had a client who wanted to do like shades of like light pink, and then like a clear, and I looked at him and then you can't do that. It wasn't different enough to, so luckily we decided on, I think, black, amber, and clear. So it was very different from each other. But yeah, those are things. Yeah. More things to think about. You have to do.
So food.
I mean, and then, you know, another thing I just thought of was the night before at rehearsal. Is confirming your rehearsal dinner.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, you book a restaurant like you would, but you're booking it a little further out. You know, you're booking that space usually a little further out. Mm-hmm. So you don't forget to call your rehearsal dinner location and confirm how many people you're having, and what time, and how long you have that space for.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I was thinking of another one is the whole cake cutting like ritual. Mm-hmm. I think they don't think about the things, like they might have a cake server, but what's gonna cut the cake? Who's gonna cut the cake? Is there a plate? Are you feeding each other? Is there a fork? Is there a napkin? All of those crazy things, you know, just to think about for that one thing.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, are you going to use your mom or your grandma's vintage cake knife and server? Or can you get it from the caterer? Don't ever assume that the caterer is going to have one. Don't ever assume, because they don't always do it. So you have to ask them that and then determine if you're going to buy one, if you're going to use someone else's, or if they have one, if you're going to use theirs. So there's that. And then everything that happens during that kind of ceremony space, that moment in time where you go to cut the cake, is who's going to be responsible for making sure the cake knife and server's out, the fork, the knife, or the plate, the napkins, like who's going to clean that up. So if you don't have a full service caterer, well, one, you should always ask your caterer. If they don't tell you right away, or tell you, you know, in a conversation, ask them for these things and then determine who's going to do it. So it's a lot of assigning, like who's going to do this, who's going to do this. So
the funny thing, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I had a big 550 person wedding, and they assumed the caterer was going to cut the cake. Mm-hmm. And we went to the caterer and said, the cake's ready to be cut. And they're like, we don't cut cake. And there was no venue person.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, this 550 person cake is not going to just cut itself. So looks like I'm doing it.
Yeah.
But these are just things, you know, you can't assume. You have to make sure somebody's doing that.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it exists out there today. I'm sure us wedding planners can put our heads together and create this giant list of everything you have to remember, because there's so many and it depends on the situation. But, you know, hopefully you all listening out here will listen to what we're saying, and it sparks little things, you know, thinking about the little details like that as well.
For sure. Yeah. What's another big one that you see that's forgotten on the day of, and you're like, you have to fix the situation?
So it's not like it's forgotten, but they forget to tell me. It's like a ceremony exit plan. Bubbles is a big thing where I show up on the day of and they just have all these bubbles and I'm literally like, what am I doing with these? So you've got to make sure that someone knows what's happening in
And
that
when?
space and when. So we figured it out because we always do. But yeah, so tell people about your plans. Put it in that master timeline because you don't, if that's something that's important to you, if somebody doesn't know, it's going to be missed. So make sure you capture those. But I see that a lot. Oh, gifts for attendants and family members. This is something that my clients, now it's not that it's like, it's not going to break your wedding if you forget this kind of thing, but it's a nice tradition, I should say. So your little gifts for your parents as a thank you if they paid for your wedding or they've supported you in some way through your life, through your journey. And this could be a little gift, a token of your appreciation, or it can be a heartfelt letter. I love the letters. It just makes me I love seeing the emotion on the parents' faces. And then for your bridesmaids or groomsmen, a small token of your appreciation. They may have traveled far. They may have put in a lot of money to be in your wedding. Yeah. So tux rentals, bridesmaid dresses. So a little something for them, and that could be something that they actually wear on the wedding day. So it could be a bracelet, and you get all the girls the same bracelet, or for the guys, socks. Or their tie that matches. So you can do that for them. And then some people do, buy little gifts for their ushers or for their kids in their wedding or grandparents. So that's something to remember. Also hotel welcome bags. If you have like a hotel block and you have people coming out of town, then you can, a nice little gesture is to do a little welcome bag. And it can be water's always great because I feel like in hotels you can never find bottled water, or free bottled water, I should say. Yeah. So when they've had a little bit too much to drink at your reception, maybe they need a little thing in their room. So that's nice. And then ibuprofen I've seen in there, or a local treat like popcorn or something is always fun.
I like the local stuff. I think that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Me too.
Just because if they're coming in from out of town, which most of them in a hotel are, then they might need a little flavor of hello, Columbus, Ohio. So
I know
great things.
There's so many great things here, right? There's so many great things in all the bigger cities. So why not?
Yeah. The thing I see missed in those welcome bags too is just a little thank you note from the bride and groom, and also maps and things to do in the
schedule.
Schedule.
Yeah. I always recommend a little schedule of events, just so everybody knows what's on the agenda, especially if you have a shuttle. I always want to put that in there because you can tell the front desk a million times what the shuttle schedule is, and they're not gonna. No. There's no way for them to communicate that.
They're so busy. Yeah.
Yeah, they're so busy. So
those are good ones. Okay, maybe room for maybe one or two more.
Okay. Yeah. So, so here's a big one. It's flowers.
Okay.
So if you're doing a bouquet toss, you need to make sure you have a toss bouquet. Yes. You do not want to toss your own bouquet. I mean, you might, but know that you're not going to get that back. It's awkward. And I don't know if you've seen these giant bouquets that are all the rage right now, but can you imagine hitting someone in the face with that? Yes.
Yeah, no.
So if you intend to do a bouquet toss as part of your reception, make sure you have some sort of toss bouquet. That can be, if you are going through a florist, ask them for a toss bouquet. They'll put something very simple, a small version of something together for you so you can toss it.
And sometimes they throw that in for free too. So it doesn't hurt to ask.
Doesn't hurt to ask. No. If you're doing your own flowers, same deal. You just take a couple, maybe 2 or 3 little, plastic or wooden flowers, whatever you're using, and then wrap it in ribbon and call it a day. And that's your toss bouquet. If you forget your toss bouquet and you forget to order one and you still want to do a bouquet toss, I recommend, unfortunately, grabbing a bridesmaid's one, but it's sad to see someone lose their bouquet and not get to take that home and display it. So keep that in mind. And then count all your order before your day. Like that goes back to the vendor confirmations. I just had an event where we thought we had 7 bridesmaids all along, and it wasn't until 2 weeks prior that I'm like, oh my goodness, we're missing. We actually have 8 bridesmaids. So we had to get an additional bouquet. And luckily we did our due diligence and we caught that 2 weeks prior, but it's the same with boutonnieres, and making sure that you have the right amount for people, for sure. Yeah.
Agreed. That's a good one. I see that so many times, and we're pulling together some flower out of a bridesmaid's bouquet to make a boutonniere or something like that. So that does seem to be a common, I don't know, just accounting error, I guess. So
it is.
Lots of numbers.
I know. Well, you go back to that idea of confirming with your vendors. You've got to make sure that you're comparing how many of each item you need and making sure it's on your order. It could have been missed by your vendor, or it could have been missed by you. I mean, it could happen anywhere. But also don't forget about your tables. So you will likely not finalize how many tables you need until that 30-day window after your RSVPs are done. So it's possible you'll lose a table. It's possible you'll gain a table from when they originally did your diagram. So count them again, make sure your order is correct, and have that conversation with your florist. Make sure you got it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen too, even if it's you're doing your own centerpieces, you might have purchased these way early and you thought it would be this amount, and now you're short one. Yeah. If you're over, it's no big deal. You can place those around for decor anywhere. But
bathroom, bar, it does not matter. Make more. Make more.
Under, I was over purchased. I was over.
Yes.
Yeah. And you'll be safe. So. And
there's so many other things I know we can go through. Like we said, there's just, if we had a list, it would be, 1,000,000 miles long, but and depending on your circumstance. So
one last thing I'll tell them is make sure you have your marriage license at 30 days in advance. So let's make sure that, because if you don't have that, you're not going to be legally married. So
read, if you're out of state, especially, you need to read the rules as to where you need to get your license from. So, and you need to take into consideration what county you're getting married in.
Right.
So read up all on that. And I hope you do that way far in advance, not 30 days. I hope you have that pre-planned, even if you just execute it 30 days prior. But yes, please.
Smart. So Michelle, and I know Devoted Columbus and Devoted to Details is all about answering questions, and we're always happy to help, whether it's on social media, but where can they reach you or reach out to connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am always available by email. It's michelle@devotedtodetails.com. And then reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any email you send me, even if it's just a quick, I just have a random question, and no question's stupid. So feel free to send those to me. And then if we need to set up a quick call and have a chat, I'm more than happy to set that up for us.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, we appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for I think, the invaluable information. I think this will be very helpful to a lot of couples, and we will be bringing more podcasts to you with more, a variety of different vendors and helping you in the planning journey, making it easy and fun. So thanks again for being with us today.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. Bye.